these trees, my God, they were probably around this height when they were planted, which is a big red flag for you right there. Just desolate, out in the middle of this road, full exposure to wind, planted in a straight line with a mound of mulch around them. Like that's,
Yep. Let's bury the trunk.
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab your gloves and get your compost ready. Stepping into the ring is the perennial powerhouse, the sultan of soil, the beast of the beds, where permaculture reigns, food grows wild, community roots run deep, and yes, the garden puns hit hard. Freedom starts in the soil. This is the Guerrilla Gardening Show.
Welcome back to the Guerrilla Gardening Show. I'm Mike, but Mike's in the garden. That's Sam from Central Florida Abundance. What's happening, Sam?
What's going on, Mike? What's going on, y'all? It's been good out there. Time to prune the fruit trees. Early March now. People are recovering from that frost. Things are starting to come out, and it's starting to look a lot better. It's been wastelandy for the past couple of weeks, but now there's new growth, new inspiration. I think people are inspired to get out there and try again.
Yeah, and we've got you on the schedule to come out to my food forest this weekend. So make sure you stay tuned because there'll be, I think pruning is pretty much just what we're going to focus on,
Yep, it'll be a
and
big pruning episode.
as well as pruning the dead things as much as we can.
And hopefully there won't be as much dead as it really appears. A lot of the time the plants will defoliate, but they'll come back from it. I have seen some dead mangoes this week though, so you know.
Soon, stay tuned, and you will see what happens with my possibly dead trees. But last week, Sam, we did a video on a pond, which may or may not be in my neighborhood, that I may or may not um, magically appear some loquat trees in the distant future.
The
And
pond itself will appear the loquat trees, they just wanted
yeah,
them there. And so,
yeah,
they just
you know,
popped
there's
up.
all kinds of ducks and birds there. So those seeds just happen to fall, and
And those Boy Scout troops, they're always planting stuff.
you
You can
know,
always, count on your local Boy
yeah.
Scouts to plant some
I
stuff
mean, who
around.
would think that some random neighbor would just be going putting trees in, you know?
Yeah, that would be crazy. Nobody
Yeah.
plants things. You
Yeah.
can't
I
grow food
mean,
out of the ground.
it's not like the name of the show is the Guerrilla Gardening Show or anything. So, um,
But last week, yeah, we talked about the ponds, and that's an area that people are very familiar with. Pretty much every neighborhood in Florida has a retention pond. And so this week, we're going to talk about another spot that pretty much everyone around the country is going to be familiar with, the medians in between these major roads, and even the minor roads sometimes.
yeah, roundabouts, you have not a cul-de-sac, I guess a rotary, and in the middle of that rotary, it's just, sometimes there's signage, maybe that's, important to navigation, but
Yeah, all these little
specifically,
plots of land where the city mows and is trying to grow turf grass. Sometimes, especially around here, you'll see them planted out with like crepe myrtles, or some random type of palm tree. But these are spaces that could be utilized more effectively. And sometimes
and
it's up to the general populace.
I did ask Chat GPT. I probably killed two trees and drained a pond just for asking this
Oh
question,
no, yeah. We could have
um,
planted six medians with all that water.
but nonetheless, I kind of wanted to see what the typical mainstream, response would be from a language model that's trying to answer my questions. And I thought it was very interesting. So I'm going to show a video of, my neighborhood, my commute, and what they've done with some of the medians. And then we'll head over to ChatGPT and kind of see the responses that a city planning meeting would give you, or a city attorney if you went and to ask these questions, which may be a future video where I'm at. Um,
When they come questioning you, where did all these trees come from?
Yeah.
Uh, no, but yeah, Chat GPT, I mean, all of the, AI chatbots, they're bringing a lot of that information from online. And so they're going to pull from, the city websites, and we're going to see, what the cities have to say in general as to why they keep the medians the way they are. This is the perfect example of a Florida median. So much is put into just having grass here. So much of the taxpayer dollars. And then we've got palms. Here's some little date palms. That might be an actual shrub. And then we got, those are cabbage palms at least, but trying to grow grass around all these things, it's honestly just kind of funny. And then we talk about stormwater management with all these drains and stuff we put in. What about the water that falls onto the soil here? Where is that going? Because it
Yeah.
could be going into the ground.
I mean, from the way these are mounted up, it almost looks like it's designed to just completely run off down into the gutters.
It probably is, because I mean, I'm sure we'll see a little bit, but I mean, city water management is all designed through to channel water through the city infrastructure. Very little do we, depend on soil saturation for, eliminating a lot of that runoff. And then these trees, my God, they were probably around this height when they were planted, uh, which is a big red flag for you right there. But just desolate out in the middle of this road, full exposure to wind, planted in a straight line with a mound of mulch around them. Like that's,
Yeah. Let's bury the trunk.
yeah. And, they're
I
not
will
getting any
say real
water.
quick, and I think this has been here for 2 years that it's been landscaped like this. I've seen crews, one or two of these palm trees fell down, and actually it could even be this tree over here on the left. See, it's a little tilted a little bit. I noticed they were
Yeah.
up there one morning and they just, hey, the tree fell down, just put it back in the ground, and we don't need supports or anything. Uh,
Yeah, that is kind of crazy that there's no supports because a lot of time the city will just go overboard with support.
there,
Uh,
there are. Here's a stretch further on down the road.
See, these are, incorporating plants like this, even the trees, none of those are bad. They're all better than trying to have lawn in the median. But it just needs to be more. They started and then decided, okay, that was good enough. But you could kind of imagine this, like if we actually made, a very, not a, it couldn't be too dense, or too wide, but a dense thicket here that would eliminate a lot of sound from the road, absorb a lot of the pollution from the cars, and also make it less likely for people to run through the median. This I feel like just asks for people to drive over it.
It's Florida. I've definitely seen it happen.
Oh yeah, I mean we all got our mud trucks down here. If you don't have 35-inch tires, you probably don't live in Central Florida. But around these trees, it's crazy to me that the ideal is the turf grass. Like even around the trees, they're like, okay, well, we planted our tree and now we can have our sod. But I can't imagine the amount of resources it takes to keep this green. How long ago did you record this? Was this after the freeze?
This was an hour ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this is peak dry season right now. The whole thing must be artificially irrigated. Uh, and,
This is probably less than 12 months, maybe within the last 6 to 12 months. So
and this bed right here around that palm tree where it's mulched, a very dense, diverse planting around some overstory stuff, that should be how the entire median is planted out. And so, in areas like this, it's going to be very hard to, I mean, not very hard, but it's not the ideal guerrilla gardening spot, you could probably mix in understory plants in like the bare spots around some of these trees. But because, it's mostly turf grass, anything outside of these strict lines is going to be in the way of the mowers, and they're probably just going to mow it down.
Hmm.
Um, but in other areas that are less affluent and have less tax money to spend, they usually just leave the medians to just do whatever, and they get weedy and trashy. And those are the medians that are prime real estate to just start plugging stuff in. Once the city's given up on mowing it, then, do a little mulched bed planting starting at the front. That'll look the most, planned, and then just slowly work your way back. Just make sure you keep it mulched. Um, See, like these trees are supported,
Hmm.
but definitely way too much with these straps anchored into the ground. Uh, and
But it looks like they got a different crew working here because a much wider base around the tree. It's not all mounded up. It's actually looks lower than
yeah,
the grass around it. So
yeah, this one's definitely mulched more professionally. It's also done extremely neatly. Like those circles look super clean. But what I'm thinking of, these look like live oaks, potentially. I can't really tell. But I mean, do you have an idea of what they are?
I have no idea.
Okay. I mean, they definitely give off, they're going to be large trees, whatever they are. And they're so close together in a straight line. That's going to create a crazy effect and also destroy, the sides of the road once their roots really expand. Um, that's not really the kind of tree in a median area where your soil, area is maybe less than 10 feet. Stick with medium-sized trees, small shrubs, and, understory plantings. We could have 10 feet of height, and that would be, I think, great, for all of these roads. Uh, but 40 feet of height is going to be plants that, make this, uh, I mean, really just unsafe. At that point, the trees won't be supported enough. There's danger of them falling into the roadways. These trees are going to be in danger of falling into the roadways. Uh, and also the oak trees on the other side. At least they have some yard, but they look like they get hacked to pieces by the electric company.
It makes you wonder. A man much smarter than I, Doug Casey, you can look him up.
Hmm.
Very, very smart guy. Um, I'm not one to, you know, take on the government, Sam, but it's to me, this seems like a self-licking ice cream cone in the sense that, you know, this was designed for perpetual maintenance, meaning that there needs to be a contract yearly so that somebody can work and that there's a budget afforded to take care of this rather than, hey, not to say that there's no maintenance needed, but it's not the Department of Public Works going out there working on this. This is like a legit crew that has a contract because I've seen them.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a private landscaping company
right.
for
And
sure.
so to me, everything you've just said means that 20, 30 years from now, it's another project that the city's going to have to do to either dig up this median, do something with the roadway, or at the very least, tree maintenance. And it's, whether that's intentional or not,
I mean, on the part of the business, I mean, realistically, you should expect private companies to act that way, especially large, companies with shareholders, which is probably, the size of a company that would do city planning. Their job is to make more money every year. And so they're gonna sell you things that, require you to keep spending money. It's just like your cell phone. You can't just buy a phone and then there you go. There's always going to be more things. Your cars are set up that way. Now, what'll be interesting to see if chat has any thoughts on it. But, you know, I feel cities have like 50 and 100-year plans
Hmm.
that somebody in a back office works on. But when decisions like, you know, how to plant out a roadway get decided upon and who's going to do it and how it's going to be done, those 50 and 100-year planners are not considered. It's, who do we have that can do it? Who's on our contract list? And, when are they available to do it? And we'll take bids, and usually, I mean, in a true capitalist society, you'd go with the, most effective and cost-effective option. In a more corrupted capitalist society, you're probably going to go with the company that your friend owns.
Hmm.
So, it's hard to say like if the people planting are really the best people that could be doing the job. And then also, out of the field of landscapers that the city has regularly done business with, like how many of them are even trying to be, regenerative or even organic. I mean, that's like you can't have organic landscaping like this, but you could have regenerative landscaping in an area like this.
Sure.
So,
And in
you know,
preparation for this video, I did, think about, um, would it be great if we had fruit trees here? Sure. But is this
you
the
wouldn't want to
ideal
eat them.
spot? Yeah, is this the ideal spot that someone's going to walk to and take
That'd be
fruit from here?
dangerous.
Yeah, it'd be very dangerous.
And the
So,
fruit also, you don't really want to harvest fruit from a busy roadway because the
exhaust. Yeah,
yeah, the skin of most fruit is permeable, and so small particles can like get into the fruit from the air that it's around. And I mean, it's a small concern, but if you got, cars driving through 12 hours a day, you know, it's a
yeah.
high likelihood that fruit's going to be contaminated with some things that you don't want in you. So yeah, fruit trees, if ideally, I like to plant fruit trees on places where people are, around parks, around the ponds that we saw, because that's places where people can be and congregate and use that fruit. If it's if it's an area that is really just structural and you know, it doesn't need to be productive for humans so much. It can still be productive for a lot of other things and benefit us in other ways.
Nice. Um,
So probably no loquats in the median.
yeah. Um,
I wouldn't knock out, I mean, there's all sorts of things you could plant, and I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head that's not invasive. That would be like a fruit. Uh, Honestly, Suriname cherry is the only thing that's popping into my head that would be like ideal. But please don't plant Suriname cherries just random wildly. In a median, in the middle of an urban area, if there's nothing and that's what you got, do it, I guess. And it'll take over. It'll plant the rest of the median out for you and they'll never be able to stop it.
yeah. All right. Let's uh let's see what our trusty no, trusty is not a good word. Let's see what AI has to say about this
Are we
here.
gonna get sued for putting this up on the screen? Is this a licensed product?
I mean, okay, so I said, why is it that cities and municipalities, as well as shopping centers, don't put native plants and or fruit trees in their islands, medians, or roadway areas that are typically crushed stone and or mulch? I guess I could have put, um, grass in there as well. So, of course, it said a great question. It's always trying to put me over here.
It's people pleasing. How does it know so much about you that you're interested in permaculture and long-term design?
Hey, I guess, I guess it's tracking what I'm saying. So it says that's a great question coming from someone interested in permaculture and long-term design. On the surface, it does seem irrational. Why plant decorative mulch and sod, or why plant decorative mulch and sod when you can plant native species or food-producing trees? But from the perspective of cities, developers, and shopping centers, there are several structural reasons why. Liability and concerns. Falling fruit is a slip hazard.
Don't
Fruit
plant fruit trees in places people aren't going to hang out and eat it.
solves
Okay.
solves that problem. We've dispelled that one.
Yeah.
Fruit attracting bees and wasps. I'm pretty
Silly.
sure any pollinating tree is going to attract bees and wasps, whether it
And
has
any
fruit on it or not.
structure,
Yeah,
who hasn't been to an outdoor restaurant in Florida and seen the giant wasp nest in
yeah.
the corner of the patio? You know,
Fruit attracts rodents, so people complain about pests.
it's really focusing on the fruit here.
Yeah. Obstructed sight lines because those oak trees aren't going to obstruct anything.
And why do you need to see the other side of the road? Like, what do you need to see what those people are doing?
Yeah, I mean we're not planting these in the middle of. So to me, that was kind of silly.
Yeah.
Um, Municipal risk managers often see fruit trees as a lawsuit magnet. Even if the risk is statistically small, legal departments tend to default to low maintenance, low interaction landscaping. So that's probably going
Yeah.
back to what you were talking about before, Sam.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're on the head too. It's the addition to that low maintenance, low interaction is it may be low maintenance, but it's continual maintenance,
Right. Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. Perpetual maintenance.
Native and fruit trees. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So now we're actually getting into the maintenance and budget constraints. And
Irrigation, you're gonna tell me they don't irrigate their sod? What the heck?
yeah, so native and fruit trees require pruning, harvesting or cleanup, irrigation, pest management. Most municipal landscaping contracts are awarded to the lowest bidder. Crushed stone and mulch and ornamental shrubs equal predictable, low skill, low liability maintenance. It's not about ecological logic, it's about line item budgeting. I think that one was is the last part, I think, is
Yeah,
probably.
line item budgeting.
So now we're at code and infrastructure restrictions. And so roadway medians and islands often have underground utilities. I mean, not,
But if you can plant any tree, like if they have
you're going to
any
plant an oak
type of
tree.
tree planted there or palm trees, the
Yeah.
grasses, if any of that can be there, then none of these things should be an issue. So, that is one thing to consider. Some medians may have utilities in them, and I guess I haven't tried it myself, but you can call uh, most cities it's 811. And if you give them an area, they'll let you know what utilities, or you can, go out there while they're doing some work because they always map out the lines for themselves. Um, See if there's any utility lines. The biggest, obviously, we don't want to hit a city water line. That would be an issue for a lot of people and probably draw some attention and kill whatever you plant because it's going to flood. But the biggest concern really is the electrical lines. You guys have to be careful out there digging. If you're digging in unknown areas, even if it's a friend's yard, if you're not entirely sure, having, I mean, knowing electrical safety is very good and dig cautiously. Uh, but insulated boots, insulated gloves, keep the PPE on.
Yeah. So a lot of these setback regulations, visibility clearance, root intrusion into pipes, height restrictions near intersections. This is, as it says, Department of Transportation tend to favor uniform, simple plantings.
Yeah. And I'd be interested, and I'm interested to know like if there's, because I have worked with some city planners and they really just work with the resources they have. And, I mean, in my field, like I'm not a company that could, take on a project like city landscaping, heavy contracts, stuff like that. That's a very large workload that you'd need a large crew to implement. And there aren't many large regenerative landscaping companies. And so, you know, maybe that's a message for somebody. If you want to do that, if you feel like running a large company is your thing, that's a market that is available. And, if it was something that was available, it'd be easier to sell the cities on doing something like that. If there's enough public interest and it's easy enough, the cities will go for it. Next week, I'm actually going to have a cool video for us. And I just thought about this, and so this will be a surprise for you too, Mike. But
Okay.
my city, uh, I think like 5 or 6 years ago, our last mayor was really into promoting native landscaping. And so one of the streets in my neighborhood is completely landscaped native. They use native ground covers and they're ditches essentially. Like the whole road is lined with ditches, and they've planted these ditches out with all native species.
Hmm.
Um, and it you know is a like a mishmash of city management and native design. Our fire bushes are pruned into boxes. The dune sunflowers are pruned into boxes. They cut the grasses at the wrong time, but the plants are there. It looks beautiful. But what's really interesting is that they use sunshine mimosa as the ground cover, and for anybody who has used that before, you'll know that it doesn't keep all the weeds out if that's the only thing there. Things will grow through it, but they don't mow it. They actually have an entire volunteer staff of groundskeepers for this downtown area of the city, and it's mostly older women, and they go out there once a month and they just hand weed. They set up their umbrellas, they chit chat while they're doing it, and then they just go weed. And I mean, I've haven't worked on that project myself. It looks miserable. I've done it a lot myself, pulling weed from Sunshine Mimosa, but you know, for a lot of people, they enjoy doing things like that. It's low intensity exercise. It's an opportunity to be social. I think it'd be great if they were getting paid for it, but if they're willing to do it for free, I'm always shocked by the amount of things that people are willing to do for free. So there's options like that. And, you know, expressing to your city leaders that that's what's important to you. If it's important to a large enough portion of their voter base, they may start to care. And, they should care anyways, but that's the tools we have to work with.
Yeah. Um, I want to hit another website real quick, but
Yeah.
a lot of these, I think we know where this is heading. Aesthetic neutrality and control. Who owns the food? Who can harvest it? What if someone
We don't,
gets
what if
sick?
the homeless people come and start eating the fruit? What are we gonna do?
Here's another one. Fruits attract raccoons, rats, deer, birds. God forbid birds come in and try and eat the fruit from these trees.
Oh God.
And now we have, developer incentives. So it says it's changing the structural
It
reality
is changing a little bit, but only because
for
people care
sure.
so much now. Like, my generation of homeowners has, what few of us that do own a home and have some property to work with, we care and we don't like lawns. For the most part, I don't know any of my friends that want to. Their lawn. I think those days might be behind us.
Yeah, I'm happy that most of my lawn is a food forest. Sam, have you ever seen this website, fallingfruit.org?
I have not. It sounds
Okay.
very interesting.
So part of the reason I became a guerrilla gardener was I came across this website, was recommended on a podcast, and the
Hmm.
guy was in San Francisco, and somebody had mentioned this to him years before, and this was like 10 years ago. And he looked up on a map where the address he was at, And he's like, oh, 2 blocks away, there's avocado trees. And he went down the street, there were avocado trees on the side of the road, and he got himself a couple avocados. And so
Huh.
this is a website where it's suggested if you have or know of where there's public fruit trees, you can put the address in, and then you can use this website as a tool to find fruit trees around you. So, um,
That's pretty cool. And I'm assuming that this is also like fruit trees that people have just like seen, not necessarily trees that they've planted themselves that they're listing.
so it looks like this one here is in Pine Hills. These fruit trees were planted in a public school in Pine Hills to provide the students and be the
Oh,
first step to the community garden. Um,
that's really cool. The description, an ability
yeah,
to
I'm gonna say most of these are probably some type of school community fruit trees. These were planted
oof.
back in 2018.
I'm looking up my address now and it is barren out here, man. Somebody's got in a church has an avocado tree next to it apparently. They said
Well,
it belongs to the church probably, so ask.
okay. Well, this is all like, self-regulated. So if somebody didn't put it on here, it doesn't mean that there's not more fruit trees around. So,
Okay, I just got the best one. So my other dot is at Aldi and it says dumpster edible. Aldi dumpster for food waste. Best to access in mornings and evenings. Hashtag no more landfills. I can support that.
okay. All
No, but
right.
this is really cool. And I mean, I think this could be a really great community resource.
Yeah.
People can start an area. I saw on your map, I mean, that one area, there was like 200 trees.
Hmm. Yep.
Have you ever been out to visit any of these?
I have not something that I do need to check out. So, Sam, we got 90 seconds left.
All right.
You're coming here this
Well,
weekend to do a consultation for me, which I have you do every year now. So, where can somebody hire you to come do a consultation?
yeah, be sure to check out that video if you want to see what the consultations run through. But you can check out Central Florida Abundance on Facebook, Instagram, or right here on YouTube if you want to hire me and get some help in your garden. We can do all this together.
And also igofarms.com. You've got
Yes,
some
I'm giving
produce
you room to
happening.
plug yourself, man. I go farms for your spring produce. We're going to be updating our website soon with our spring harvest boxes.
Excellent. And Mike's in the garden. There's going to be logos and stuff coming across the screen. So follow me there and head over to our shop where you can purchase some shirts. Like gardening is simply effing around and finding out. That's what we do. It's what the guerrilla gardening's all about. So, um, Sam, I'm going to call you real quick. I just want to talk about Saturday. But other than
Okay.
that, I hope everyone enjoyed this video, learned something, and maybe we'll follow up with my city planners. See what they say.
We'll see y'all next time.
Thanks, Sam.